What I'm about to show you here in this tutorial is how to use the masking tools to kind of pick and choose points of changes, either by showing or hiding some of those changes in your image. We are going to do this again when we get into our next unit dealing with color, but I wanted to be able to have those that are ready to kind of try something different in their work, have the opportunity to learn how this works. What I'm going to do here is, for instance, if you change the value in your work, or you're doing something here, if I go into levels and I wanted to create some more high or low-key kind of feeling here, but then when I do that, maybe I lose some definition in some areas, or some areas that seem to have more contrast in them that I wanted to stand out more. I could go in and kind of fudge some of those areas a little bit. Now you have to be careful because this might not look very natural, so you have to be really careful and specific. It might work best when you're trying to have some areas come out and stand out against certain backdrops, areas you want to create more contrast where your changes kind of blended things together. What we're going to do is we're going to work with a mask. Now when you create these image adjustment options, here I have my black and white option and my levels option, it creates this white area that means it's the image adjustment layer. So I can work within this white layer. Now this white layer is here. Okay, it means that levels change is present. So what I can do is I can work with my brush and do the opposite of white, which is black. And if I want to hide some areas, I can do that very carefully with a black brush. Now, you have to make sure that your mode is normal. You have to make sure that you're in your brush tool. Okay, it looks just like a brush. Okay, don't be confused with this history brush here. It is just the brush tool. Located at the very bottom of your toolbar is a black and white foreground background sort of color. If you want to hide something, you're going to have the black, so you can swap it that way, or you can use your X on your keypad to toggle between them. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to brush, I'm going to hide some of my levels changes. I'm going to make sure that I have my white box selected in the layers box. This will be indicated with these little little corners, these black corners here. And I will be using my brush. Now I'm going to zoom in by holding Control plus, okay, and then I can move around without making any changes by holding down my space bar, and I get this hand, and I can just kind of move around there. This is my brush, okay. I can change my brush size by going up to the top and clicking that down arrow. I can change the diameter, I can change the hardness. I'm actually going to keep the hardness kind of low because I don't want rough edges. And my master diameter, I like working more with a visual. So I can use my brackets, which are located next to the P on your keypad. And the left bracket will make it smaller, and the right bracket will make it bigger. Just makes it a little easier. So what I'm really trying to do here is I wanted some of this area of this top of this garlic to kind of show out more, and it's kind of hiding with my background here a little bit, because when I turned my levels it darkened it up. So what I'm going to be doing is when I paint with my black brush, I'm going to be hiding that levels change. Okay. Now I'm not being very careful here, and I'll show you how you can be a little bit more. And I'm going to zoom out now. I'm going to go Control minus just to see how that looks. Now obviously that looks completely ridiculous. And a little bit too harsh. So I'm zooming in, holding spacebar. Now I can toggle by pressing X so that my white comes back, and I can bring that back, okay, and return it to normal using my spacebar here. And I can be just a little bit I can be a little bit more careful by making my brush a little smaller. I could also turn down the opacity. Now when you turn down the opacity, it's going to not make the change completely disappear. It's going to kind of do a half-seize. So depending on the opacity, here I'm about half. So maybe I will just kind of press the edges a little bit. Got to switch to black. Hello. Press the edges a little bit. I don't really like how this is going either, but again, you can kind of work with your image. Now I'm going to toggle this, make my brush a little smaller, and I'm going to kind of leave some of that there, but maybe just lighten the edge a little bit. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm kind of almost painting my values in. I'm almost, painting in. I'm going to control and backspace that out. So at least that kind of brings it out a little bit more there than it was. So again, this is something you kind of have to fiddle with. It's something you're going to have to take a lot of practice with and see if it's something that you'd like to do to bring things out. Because again, remember, the darker your image is, when we try to print it, it's going to flatten all that. So what I did in this image is I actually tried to bring some of that dimension back. Alright, so again, don't get too caught up with this. Don't worry if you get frustrated right away, because we are going to spend some more time with this in our next unit.